Happy Learning Day, everyone! Welcome to the presentation of Group 4. Get ready and enjoy learning English right in the comfort of your home. So come on, let's start learning and love English! But before our presentation, may we call Miss Altea Velasco to lead our opening prayer to bless this wonderful morning?
Let's bow our head and pray. Our Almighty Lord, guide us in our step this morning for our presentation. Give us the wisdom and courage to be able to present without fear. Guide our classmate and teacher who always guide us. We apologize for our sins. All this we will say with all our hearts in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you for a wonderful prayer, Miss Velasco. And now, let us proceed to our word of the day. Do you know what's a speech? A speech is the communication or expression of thought in spoken word. Speech is a communication through talking or a talk given to an audience. An example of speech is a conversation between two people. An example of speech in a sentence is, I was so flustered that I momentarily lost the power of speech. Classmates, can you give more examples of sentences using the word speech? You may type your answers in our chat pane and we'll read your answers. Don't be shy, classmate. You can do this. Thank you for all of your sentences, classmates. Now, let's have a short game called Guess the Gibberish. In this part, we will present words that can make your answers, and you only have to do is type your answers in the chat box. Are you ready, classmates? And for the first word, we have articulate and shun. What word can we make if we pull it together? Please type it in our chat box so we can know your answers. If your answer is articulation, then you got it right. For our second word, we have mode, due, late, and shun. Do you know what word can we make if pull it together? Please type it in our chat box so we can know your answers. If your answer is modulation, then you got it right. For our third word, we have man, news, and creep. What word we can make if pull it together? Type your answers in our chat box. If your answer is manuscript, then you got it right. For our fourth word is we have mim, mo, and rice. What word we can make if we pull it together? Type your answers in our chat box. If your answer is memorize, then you got it right. For our last word, we have odd, dag, and gens. What word we can conclude if we pull it together? Type your answers in our chat box. If your answer is audience, then you got it right. Thank you for participating in this game, and I guess you already have an idea what is our topic for today.
The topic that we're about to discuss is all about delivering a self-composed speech. I hope you enjoy listening to our presentation. In this presentation, you will learn about speech definition, tips for preparing a speech, structure of speech, principles of speech delivery, types of speeches according to delivery, and types of speeches according to purpose. Are you often speechless when you need to speak and recite in class? This sometimes is terrifying and embarrassing to the experience of some when asked to speak in front of everyone in the class. How can we avoid these feelings? Let us first define the word speech. What is the meaning of speech? Speech is communication through talking or a talk given to an audience. It is the ability to express one's thoughts and emotions by speech sounds and gestures. So, to avoid feeling nervous in delivering a speech in front of an audience, you have to be prepared. What are the things you need to prepare to ensure that you have a successful speech? As often as possible, high school students like us should embrace challenges, and public speaking is an excellent way to do just that. Giving a speech in class forces you out of your comfort zone, especially if you must take a stand on a social issue. It's really nervous, conscious, and embarrassing, especially when you make a mistake, but you definitely can avoid all of this with practice. You learn to face your insecurities, soothe your anxiety, and respond articulately. As a result, you develop resilience, conviction, and eloquence. Thus, the following tips for giving a speech in class can empower students like you. Here are the key tips for preparing a speech. Number 1. Organize your speech. Organizing speeches serves two important functions. First, the organization helps improve the clarity of thought in a systematic way. Second, the organization increases the likelihood that the speech will be effective. Number 2, get to the point. Every speech must have a general and specific purpose. General purpose is to inform, persuade, entertain, or inspire. A specific purpose is what you want the audience to do after listening to your speech. Remember the time you graduated from elementary? They have invited the guest speaker, right? The main purpose of guests giving speeches during graduation is to inspire the newly graduate to study harder and to achieve more in life. Number 3. Use short words and short sentences. People find short words and sentences easier to understand, especially when spoken. Short words can carry more force in a statement. As they say, the simpler the better. It will also make your speech easier to understand. Number 4. Persuade with power. The ability to convince, to get other people to understand, accept, and act upon your idea is a valuable skill. Use logic and emotion in your appeal, and you may add any appropriate humor to your presentation. There must be emotion for the presentation to be convincing and not boring. Audiences are unlikely to understand these organized speeches, and even less likely to think that these organized speakers are reliable or credible. Speeches are organized into 3 main parts.
Structure of speech. Basically, the speech structure is composed of 3 main parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. Its format is to be for a smooth flow of information. Moreover, a well-prepared speech results to a successful speech delivery. It boosts the confidence of the speaker in the actual delivery of the speech. The introduction is the most important part of the speech. The introduction establishes the first, and it is the crucial contact between the speaker and the audience. For most classroom speeches, the introduction should be less than a minute. The introduction needs to accomplish three things. A. Focus your audience attention. Speakers must have an attention grabber to interest the audience. Your aim is to tell your audience who you are and what you're talking about. Then you want to grab their attention. B. Establish goodwill and credibility. The audience needs to see the speaker as someone to listen to attentively and sympathetically. Making eye contact with the audience and displaying confidence in voice and body are two important ways to establish the character. In the audition, if you express your ideas that are original and intelligent, you will show what intellectual character is. The audience are pay attention to habits or thoughts that are interesting and worth listening to. And lastly, give a preview. Mentioning the main points to the cover in the body prepares the audience to listen to the theme. The preview should end in the transition or a pause. So signal the audience the speaker is moving out of the introduction into the body. And our next structure of speech is the body. The body contains all information to support the ideas. It is the center part of the speech that explains and discusses the key idea of the speech. In the body, the fewer the main points, the better. For short classroom speeches under 10 minutes, speeches should not have more than 3 main points. For longer speeches with more than 5 main points, and sure, the audience will have trouble of following and remembering the speech. In this speech, the main points are surely clearly stated, and signpost mark of distinct is important to the audience. Transition often serves to signpost new points, as do pauses before an important idea. Additionally, speakers might number the main point first, second, third, or first, next, finally. Always make it easy for the audience to recognize and follow the key ideas. Our last structure of speech is the conclusion. Following a transition of the body of speech, the conclusion follows. The conclusion should be somewhat shorter than the introduction and accomplish two purposes. Summarize the main idea and give the speech a sense of closure and completion. A good conclusion might be to refer back to the introduction and offers an analogy or metaphor that captures the main idea or leave the audience with a question or a challenge of some type. A brief quotation can also make effective conclusion, just as they can make an effective opening for the introduction. Now, let's proceed to the discussion of the principles of speech delivery. Articulation. This means pronouncing the word and speaking with clear diction that effectively transmits the message. The pronunciation of the words should be clear. Modulation. It refers to the capability to adjust or manipulate the resonance and timbre of the vocal tone. There must be control, not too loud nor too soft. Stage presence. It is the ability to own the stage and be able to fill the space and project the speaker's personality to the audience. Facial expressions, gestures, and movements. They build connection with the audience and help emphasize your points. They convey your feelings as a speaker and add drama to your speech. Audience rapport. It is the trust and connection that the speaker creates with his or her audience. You should show that you are comfortable on stage so that the audience will be comfortable seeing you and listening to you as well. You need to remember them so that your presentation is not boring and embarrassing if they don't understand anything in your speech because they are so boring, isn't it?
Now, let us proceed to the types of speeches according to delivery. The first type is the manuscript. Manuscript delivers this type of speech in a word-form manner. Advantages of manuscript. It delivers directly the exact repetition of original words from the written form, and it is used when a message needs to be delivered in precise words. And the advantage of manuscript is it is typically an uninteresting way to present. The presentation tends to be dull. Memorized. It is a speech that involves a commitment to remember the whole content. Rote recitation of the speakers has committed to memory. Advantages. It enables the speaker to maintain eye contact with the audience. It allows the speaker to be free of notes and move freely around the stage and use hand to make gestures. Disadvantages. He or she might end up speaking in a monotone or a sing-song repetitive delivery pattern or in a rapid machine gun style. He or she might go completely blank during the presentation or suffer from mental block. Extemporaneous. It is the presentation of a carefully planned and rehearsed speech spoken in a conversational manner using brief notes. Advantages. It is speaking in a limited time and guided by notes or outline. And the speaker will be perceived as knowledgeable and credible, and the audience is likely to pay better attention to the message because it is engaging both verbally and non-verbally. Disadvantage. It requires a great deal of preparation for both the verbal and non-verbal components of the speech. And impromptu. It is an unrehearsed speech where the speaker delivers it conversationally and on the spur of the moment. Advantage. It is spontaneous and responsive in an animated group context. And for the disadvantage, the speaker is given little or no time to complete the central theme of his or her message.
This time, here are the types of speech according to purpose. Informative speech. It aims to provide interesting and useful information to the audience on a specific topic or subject and focuses on giving significant information in factual statement. Example: an informative speech about the history of the Philippines' First Republic during the celebration of Independence Day in Malolos, Bulacan. Demonstrative speech. It aims to instruct to do something that works. Example: commercial and training session. Persuasive speech. It aims to influence the audience. It is designed to convince the audience to change the way they think or to do something. The speaker acts as advocate or supporter of an idea, belief, attitude, or behavior. Example: a persuasive speech about why you should get a COVID-19 vaccine. Entertainment speech. It aims to entertain or amuse listeners by using light, funny, or witty anecdotes. It provides pleasure and enjoyment that makes the audience laugh. Example, funny facts of life.
Now that you know the definition of the word speech, and we discussed some tips for preparing a speech, enumerate the three structure of speech, and discuss the principles and types according to delivery and according to purpose, you are now ready to compose and deliver your own speech in front of an audience. Good luck! Before we end our presentation, let's proceed to our assessment. We will present 10 questions for our assessment, and you all you have to do is comment your answers on the chat box. For our number 1, which are not key tips for preparing a speech? A. Use short words and short sentences. B. Persuade with power. C. Organize your speech. And D. Love your dogs. If your answer is D, love your dogs, then you got it right. For number 2, what is a key tips for preparing a speech that helps improve clarity of thought in a systematic way? And the choices are A. Persuade with power. B. Organize your speech. C. Get to the point. And D. Use short words and short sentences. If your answer is B, organize your speech, then you got it right. And for number 3, it is a key tips for preparing a speech that is need general purpose, such as to inform, persuade, entertain, or inspire, and specific purpose, like what you want the audience to do after listening to your speech. And for our choices, we have A. Persuade with power. B. Organize your speech. C. Get to the point. And D. Use short words and short sentences. If your answer is C, get to the point, then you are right. For number 4, it is a key tips for preparing a speech where people find short words and sentences easier to understand, especially when spoken. Short words can carry more force in a statement. A. Persuade with power. B. Organize your speech. C. Get to the point. D. Use short words and short sentences. If your answer is D, use short words and short sentences, then you got it right. For our number 5, it is a key tips for preparing a speech where the use of logic, emotion, and appropriate humor is important. A. Persuade with power. B. Organize your speech. C. Get to the point. And D. Use short words and short sentences. If your answer is A, persuade with power, then you are right. Number 6,
This means pronouncing the words and speaking with clear diction that effectively transmit the message. And here are the choices. A. Audience report. B. Stage present. C. Modulation. D. Articulation. If your answer is D, articulation, then you got it right. Number 7. It is the center part of the speech which explains and discusses the key ideas of the speech and contains all the information to support the idea. And here are the possible answers. A. Front, B. Body, C. Introduction, and D. Conclusion. If your answer is B, body, then you got it right. For number 8, it is a speech that involves commitment to remember the whole content. And here are the possible answers. A. Manuscript, B. Impromptu, C. Memorize, and D. Extemporaneous. If your answer is C, memorize, then your answer is correct. For our number 9, it is the trust and connection that speaker creates with his or her audience. You should show that you are comfortable on stage so that the audience will be comfortable seeing you and listening you as well. And here are the possible answers. A. Audience report, B. Stage presence, C. Modulation, D. Articulation. If your answer is A, audience report, then you got it right. And for our last question, it aims to entertain or amuse listeners by using light, funny, or witty anecdotes. It provides pleasure and enjoyment that makes the audience laugh. And here are the possible answers that you can comment on our chat box. A. Informative speech, B. Persuasive speech, C. Entertainment speech, and D. Demonstrative speech. If your answer is C, entertainment speech, then you got it right. Do you enjoy learning English right in the comfort of your home? We hope that you all enjoy our group presentation and learned a lot today. Thank you, Mrs. Lina Montalion Madrid and classmates. Goodbye!